Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the At the Water's Edge podcast, where we look for insights behind the headlines to take a practitioner's view on national security and geopolitics. It's the 24th of November, 2025. Let's get started. So today's topic is going to be a little different, really different. We're not really going to be talking about national security today or geopolitics, but a lot of folks have reached out and asked what it was like going on Fallon. What's it like to go viral on TikTok before you even have one? What's this whole experience been like for you? And since the podcast is the platform that I have, I figured I'd record a quick snippet going through everything that was happening in my world while all this was going on, and what it was like to go through the whole process. And finally, out on the back end of this now, things are starting to die down again and get back to normal, which is cool. So, how did all this start for me? Well, on November 9th, the Jonas Brothers had a concert in Buffalo, New York, and somebody there was reviewing a resume, a TikToker named Jen.
Hi, I'm Stacey Nordwall, host of Toot or Boot, the show that boots burnout culture and calls out corporate nonsense. Each week I talk with bold leaders and good troublemakers who are rewriting the rules of work. We dig into what's broken, what's working, and how to build something better, with a mix of practical advice and humor. If you're ready for a healthier, more human workplace, this is your show.
I'll put her handle in the show notes. Was recording at the concert and peeked down and saw somebody looking at her resume and decided to post a 7-second clip of it. Over the next week, she posted it on TikTok, and over the next week, it got over 50 million views. And it wasn't indeed my resume. So Monday night, I'm sitting in MBA class, actually called Guazetta Impact, where you do a consulting group project for an actual client. So I'm in that Monday night class, and someone else in my cohort drops a screenshot of this fuzzy resume into our group chat and says, "Hey, Scott, you're going famous on TikTok." And I'm like, "That's cute. Like, I don't even have a TikTok." And I look at the resume. I'm like, "That's clearly not my resume." Glancing at it real quick. And then over the next day, a couple of people start finding me and reaching out. I start getting hicked up on LinkedIn by complete strangers saying, "Hey, you're going famous on TikTok, and here's all these screenshots from all these companies." I'm like, "Ha ha ha, that's so funny. Why are these people finding me?" And Tuesday morning, I actually get a phone call from the gentleman in the video, Brandon Buren. And I get this text message that just comes in and says, "Hey, my name is Brandon. I'm from Rainier Home Services. Somebody had sent me your resume. Could we talk?" I was like, "Oh, wow, dude, you're already in my phone." And he pops up, Delta Company 187 Infantry, which is a unit I was in back at Fort Drum. I'm like, Brandon Buren. Like, why do I already know this guy? I'm like, oh, crap. I remember him. When I first got to Delta Company to be a platoon leader there, he was the executive officer of the company. I was kind of coming into the company from Charlie Company, also in 187 Infantry, as he was rotating out. I got assigned to Fort Drum in 2013 when I was an infantry officer in the Army. Initially got there, was assigned to 1st Platoon Charlie Company, did a year as platoon leader. And then I got assigned to Delta Company to be a platoon leader for a different type of platoon. I went from a rifle platoon, which is about 40 guys, rifles, machine guns, grenade launchers, that sort of thing, to what they call an assault platoon in the Heavy Weapons Company, which is actually a truck-mounted platoon with heavy machine guns, fully automatic Mark 19 grenade launchers, tow anti-tank missiles, all that fun stuff. And so, yeah, as I was transferring into Delta Company and processing as a new platoon leader there, he was the executive officer who was actually getting ready to out-process and go on to the next phase of his career. So we crossed over in 187 Infantry for probably about a year and a half. And we crossed over in Delta Company specifically for maybe 2 months, probably. Anyway, he confirmed that, yep, I was in the unit. I was like, I remember you. He's like, dude, I thought your name sounded familiar. And so, we had a phone call that morning and talked about that. It was great. And yeah, his company is always looking to hire veterans in the area. Anytime they're expanding or starting a new project, they see a lot of value in the intangible skills that being in the military, especially having a junior mid-level leadership position in the military, teaches you about accountability, about getting stuff done, about how to communicate inside an organization. And basically, they're cool with teaching all the other stuff about their business, but those sorts of skills they like just to hire in. So they go after the military talent pool in the area. I'm like, hey, man, it's great to talk to you. And we actually agreed to meet up for coffee later that week. Friday morning, we're gonna go get coffee as he's driving through the Syracuse area for work. And he's also going to bring along another friend at the company who did Penn State's Army ROTC program, which is the same program that I commissioned through. I'm like, oh, it's a small world. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So by lunch on Tuesday, I know something's up because people keep finding me. So I'm like, all right. So I go ahead and download the TikTok app, which I never wanted to do because I didn't want all my data to go to the Chinese Communist Party. I know somehow it's better that just Google, Facebook, and Meta, Zuckerberg, Elon, all those folks have my data, not just the Chinese Communist Party. American oligarchs are far better than authoritarian regimes abroad, right? Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, get TikTok. It's easy to find the video because I'm a brand new user on TikTok and I just hit the search icon. It's the first thing that pops up. It's Scott Kelly resume. It's the automatic input search. I'm like, oh, good. So I click it and watch the video. And I realized that when Brandon was scrolling my resume, he scrolls down to the second page and I'm looking at the bottom of the second page of the resume, and the way it's formatted lines up exactly with how mine actually is. And I go back and look at my actual resume that's been circulating out there. It realized it was me. I'm like, oh, this is funny. And I start scrolling through the comments and they're absolutely hilarious. And my wife's texting me because she's hearing about it from people at work. I'm like, yeah, so this is happening. It's my resume. It's going viral. Like, this is fun. Well, later that night, USA Today, People, Hindustan Times, some other outlets in traditional media start writing stories about it. I'm like, okay, so this is going from social media to regular media. So this is officially a thing. It's being documented. Folks at work are definitely going to find out. And I'm like, oh, crap, what do I do? And spoke to somebody about, what should I do with all this going on? And they're like, well, there's enough information out there about you that they can find you. And if other people start claiming to be you with all this going on, that can cause problems for you down the line. So if this is really you, you just need to get out there and have something out there on social media or whatever saying like, yep, this is me. You got to own it and get ahead of it. It'll just prevent problems in the long run. Like, okay. So I go on the Twitter account for the X account for my podcast, which I hardly ever use. I'll start using it more now and just put out a text or message like, yep, podcast host is the resume owner. And isn't that funny? I then hit up Brandon. I was like, hey, was someone from your company at a Jonas Brothers concert Sunday night? Just curious because all this is popping off and I just want to make sure. He calls me a few minutes later. He's like, yeah, man, that was me. My bad. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to get all your stuff out there. I'm like, no, it's totally cool. Not an issue or anything. I just wanted to double check this before I start talking to anyone about it. Because people are starting to find me. Now, this is a great lesson in OPSEC, operational security, which is kind of just the basics of not talking about information that shouldn't be public in public. Obviously, a resume has a lot of different personal information on it. I'm not mad at Brandon for checking his work email at a concert and pulling it up real quick. But there are certain things you do and don't put on your resume. Like in my resume, it says I work in the Syracuse area. It doesn't have my home address on it. That's a really good practice. Nothing wrong with, HR different companies having your home address, but if it is circulating out there, it's kind of weird for everybody to have it. Have a screen protector for your phone so people can't look at it, or a privacy protector so people can't look at it from different angles. Shout out to Jen, who was kind enough before she put my resume all over TikTok, when it ended up being over 50 million people. She blurred out all the information other than my name. Grateful that she took that step to protect my privacy. Grateful for all the folks who reached out on LinkedIn who said, this appears to be you, but it doesn't look like you said anything about it yet, so I'm not going to, tag you in anything. Very surprised with how much people went out of their way to respect my privacy in this whole thing, especially random strangers on the internet. Until the sleuth started finding me on LinkedIn. But, I am on LinkedIn, so can't blame them for looking for me. But yeah, good lesson on OPSEC. Be careful where you open up sensitive information. Take personal steps to protect your personal devices, screen protectors, use a VPN, all that fun stuff. It's just good hygiene, no matter where you are, what you're doing. You never know. You can pull up your work email on your phone and have something sensitive on there anywhere. Could be in an industry conference. Competitors can shoulder peek you. All sorts of stuff can happen. Practice good OPSEC. OPSEC saves lives and careers. So, Brandon, says he's sorry that this stuff got out there. Like, yeah, totally fine. Nothing bad's happened. Nothing bad's going to happen. He's wondering, is going to be any blowback at work? I'm like, nah, shouldn't be any blowback at work. I mean, there's a resume out there. I'm in an MBA program. This shouldn't be an issue for anybody. If it is, tells you all you need to know about work, right? And it's not like I was out there networking with my buddy trying to find my next gig. And even if I was, that wouldn't be anybody's business except my own, right? Anyway. So now it's Tuesday night and things are showing up in print media. And I'm like, okay, I got to go to work and let them know that this is happening. Yes, it is me, in case they start getting questions, because people can see where I work on LinkedIn and all that fun stuff. And my employer's kind of a big deal in the local area. So figure all that out Tuesday night, and Wednesday morning, get up ready to head to the office and let them know what's going on. But, when it rains, it pours. So there's some complications Wednesday morning. Our dog Dozer, who's a Norwegian Elkhound Retriever mix, beautiful dog, a little over 2 years old. He's having a problem with his leg. We're getting ready to take him to the vet and make an appointment. But, Wednesday morning, we wake up and he can't get out of his crate. Like, both of his back legs are messed up. He can't move at all. We're like, oh, dear Lord. So call the vet. They're like, yep, just take him in to the ER. And so hit up my boss that morning. I was like, hey, I'm going to be at the office, but I got a sick dog that I got to get to urgent care. Get the kids and the family and everyone out the door, pile the dog in the car, take him to the animal hospital. They bring him in, look at him. There's a whole bunch of tests they want to run, x-rays, blood work, all this stuff. It's like, cool. They're like, yeah, it's going to be, a few hours. You can leave him here. I'm like, all right, thanks. Call me when he's ready. And I head off to the office for work. In the middle of all this, the Washington Post starts reaching out to do an article. I'm like, all right, this is serious. So get to the office and I go to my boss. I'm like, hey, later when you got a second, I got to talk to you about something. I got a fun one for you today. He's like, all right, Scott. We get to lunch and I asked to talk to him real quick and we go into a room around the corner. I was like, so are you familiar with TikTok? He's like, I've heard of it. I'm like, well, this clip went viral. It's got, I think, 5 million views at that point, 10 million. I don't know what it was. But, this guy was looking at my resume at a concert. And it is my resume. And it's gone from social media to print media. So, people might reach out about it. He's like, all right, well, that's kind of funny. I'm probably not going to get in trouble or anything. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a resume floating around out there. You should take every call every recruiter ever gives you. You always keep your interview skills sharp, which is some of the best advice I ever got in my career. I've gotten it from multiple people. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm working through the workday and I'm getting reach out from media outlets, two big ones being Washington Post. And then eventually in the afternoon, I get a message from The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, which is like, what the heck? Because Washington Post reaches out and they've got a columnist that does positive news stories. Like, oh yeah, it's a fun little write-up. That's cool. Getting the national paper, shout out to the podcast. It'll be fun. But late night TV reaches out and says, hey, you want to come on the show? It's like, oh Lord. So, Washington Post and late night reach out and Jimmy Fallon show, asking for verification. I'm like, well, I actually spoke to the guy who's in the video yesterday morning. He verified that, yes, it was him looking at my resume. I can share his information as long as he says it's okay. So I'm hitting up Brandon like, hey, can I share your information with the press? They're asking me questions. He's like, sure. And then I can send you a copy of the resume so you can look at the way it's formatted and scroll through the video and line it up. And that's the actual resume. Went through Google Docs and found it. Not sure why that version of it was circulating out there, but whatever. And yeah, I had mentioned to somebody at work that, hey, this is going on. Isn't this funny? And oh, by the way, Jimmy Fallon's team just reached out and they want to get on a Zoom call ASAP. After I answered a few questions and said, yeah, it was me. His initial reaction was, dude, just delete all your socials, just go completely dark so no one can find you. Let it all blow over. I'm like, I don't think I wanted to do that. And, now it's real. Now it's a big thing. And now this isn't just like answering phone calls at home. It's like, I might be getting on a plane to go fly to New York City, like to go do a major TV outlet. I'm like, is that something I should even do? Like, I got a wife and kids at home. Like, it's a fun story, but come on, what's the point? It'd be a laugh and a joke. But I was thinking, it's a national audience. I get to go in front of millions of people. Like, okay, if I had the opportunity to do that, what would I do with it? I kind of just have that sitting in the back of my head. Anyway, producers for the Tonight Show asked me if I can come to New York City the next day to meet the Jonas Brothers, who are going to be on the show to promote their new movie and all that. I'm like, let me talk to my wife. So I hit up my wife. I'm like, this is going on. And she's like, you need to go to New York. I'm like, all right. So it was late Wednesday night when all this came together. I'm texting with the producers throughout the day or throughout that afternoon. This all came together in like 5 hours Wednesday night. And they're sharing, like, we normally don't do last minute bookings. So we got to, find a way to work this into the show. And we're not sure if we can get you down here, but if we could, like, what would that look like? Can we get your information? I'm like, sure. And it's like 8 or 9 o'clock Wednesday night. And they hit me up. It's like, yep, you're confirmed. And that's also about the time, my family and I had figured out childcare plans and all that. And we're like, yep, I can go. I told my boss I was taking a PTO day Thursday. So that got confirmed. And I'm like, all right, I got to pack. And I'm like, what do you wear on national television? I don't know these things. I got a couple different emails from the team at the Tonight Show. One said, I just wear something like relaxed casual, something like a blazer and a nice shirt or something. Or, like someone else sent me an email saying, actually, no, we're going to make it like a job interview. So dress up, you're going to a job interview. I'm like, well, depending on the job interview, like, what are we doing here? Some of that could be a suit. Some of that could be, work boots. Like, which way are we going with this? So I showed up with like 5 different outfits. And I called it my costume bag. It was just my roll-on suitcase. It was like, yeah, it's my costume bag. And it's like going to a high school musical. And I got all the props in there. And like, I got everything from like black sneakers to brown dress shoes to, full-blown suit to a bunch of stuff in between. Well, whatever. Pack it, figure it out later. So I got an early morning flight from Syracuse to New York. And of course, I don't sleep at all Wednesday night, just awful sleep. Awake all night, tossing and turning. And it was that same feeling I would get like when an early hit time in the Army and I had to get up super early and you're like afraid your alarm's not going to go off. And like, if you miss the bus to get to this one school, it's like, your world's going to end. It was like one of those nights again. And I got up super early and my bags were not quite fully packed, but mostly packed. And I packed the last couple things. And then, got in my car, drove to the airport. They had a ticket there waiting for me. So I went to the counter, picked up my ticket. And yeah, I had skipped breakfast in the hopes that not having coffee and all that could just help me sleep a little bit on the plane down there. Kept my eyes shut the entire flight. I don't think I slept a wink. Got to JFK and went and found my car. They said they have a car waiting for me. I'm like, what, is like a link to an Uber or something? No, it was a blacked out luxury Suburban, chrome trim, all that stuff, chauffeur and a tux, like that type of deal. The VIP treatment and picking me up from JFK and driving me the hour and a half to Manhattan. That it is at that time of day. And of course, one critical detail I missed in all this is I did not see how long it took to get from JFK to the hotel they were going to have me staying at around the corner from their production studio at 30 Rock. So I didn't grab anything for the car. So I'm sitting in the back of this Suburban. Haven't slept. I've got a headache. Haven't eaten. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a coffee addict. I should have gotten coffee, whatever. And my group chat for the MBA program is blowing up. And everyone's, talking about all the things I should be doing to capitalize on this viral moment and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm literally, I'm in the car on the way to go to the Tonight Show. And I almost want to say something to the group. I'm like, no, I'm not saying anything to anybody because, talking to the producers yesterday, they're like, well, we might be able to get you down here. Okay, well, if we get you down here, we'll probably be able to get you on the show, but maybe not. We're not sure how much. We got to reorganize the show. And even if we get you on the show, a lot might get cut post-production. Maybe so we're not quite sure, It's like, okay, I still don't even know for sure that I'm going to go on the show. And I don't know if I do go on the show, it's actually going to make it to air. So I'm not saying anything to anybody about nothing until all this goes down. The only people I told were my best friend from high school. I hit her up. And was like, I'm going on the Tonight Show. This is crazy. And then my brother who lives in New York City, he and his wife, I hit him up Tuesday night. I was like, hey, do you want to come see Fallon? Because the Tonight Show asked me, do you have any guests you want to bring? I'm like, no, my wife's going to be here with the kids. And I was like, actually, I got my brother and sister-in-law in the city. I hit them up and asked if they wanted to come on. And they're like, well, we're busy. We got stuff going on. Why? You score tickets to the show or something? I was like, well, actually, I might be on it. And they're like, what? We're dropping everything. So yeah, they actually rearranged their whole schedule last minute so they could come watch me try to go on the show. So that was cool. Anyway, make it to the hotel, and I'm checking in first thing in the morning, but the Tonight Show had actually checked me into that same hotel the previous night, so the room was already ready. So shout out to them for being a class act, this whole thing. They went out of their way to make sure I was taken care of and comfortable to the extent possible and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I got to New York City. Almost nobody knows I'm there. I've got was a 2 p.m. then moved to 3 p.m. call for the Tonight Show. And found a place around the corner to get breakfast. I chatted with them at the diner, but I already forgot it. But I'll give them credit. They did not skimp on the bacon. That was awesome. Finally ate something. And then went back to the hotel and tried to lay down again for an hour and shut the lights off and get some sleep. But I don't think I slept a wink. On the way back from the diner, there was a Brooks Brothers right around the corner from 30 Rock. So I walk in there and I've got this outfit in mind. I'm like, I haven't been in a place where I can find a nice casual blazer. And I'm looking at some folks around New York City. I'm like, there's some really smart looking outfits out here. I could imitate with what I got. So actually walking into Brooks Brothers and impulse bought a blazer. It was like 30% off. Good deal. I put it on. I'm like, this actually looked really sharp. This is what I'm going to wear tonight. So it was already 30% off, but I go up to the counter and ask them, like, hey, if I wear this on national TV tonight, can I get more of a discount? They checked. The answer was no. But they did say that they do stuff like that. They just don't, and they say they don't. They can do whatever they want, right? They just don't match discounts. If anyone's out there and it's not already discounted and you want to try something like that, shoot your shot, man. Shoot your shot. So he asked for additional discount, didn't get it, but still a good deal. And after impulse buying a blazer to, further add to the amount of outfits I had with me, went back to the hotel and chilled out till casting call. Now, while I was in the hotel, I got hit up by Tom Lamas, his team, saying, hey, would you want to hop on Zoom and join the program tonight over at NBC News? I'm like, where's the show? Is it in the city? I don't know any of this stuff. I don't watch late night TV. I don't watch network television. I just don't have any of this stuff at home. So I actually look up Tom Lamas and they film in the same building as Jimmy Fallon. I'm like, actually, guys, I'm going to be in your building later today if you just want me to swing by the studio. They're like, oh yeah, that'd be great. But the fun part there is that, Jimmy Fallon's show airs late at night. Tom Lamas shows sometimes around 7 p.m. ish. But on Jimmy Fallon's show, they really want me to be meeting the Jonas Brothers, live for the first time, which we do, which is great. But that's going to air after the Tom Lamas segment. So they just had to work out the arrangement. Scott can come do the show, but you just can't ask him about meeting the Jonas Brothers because he's going to come from meeting the Jonas Brothers, but the segment's not going to air until after the Tom Lamas thing does. So they're working all that out. And of course, this time stuff's out there. People know who I am. A couple different people had found me on TikTok, on LinkedIn, and posted those videos. So now like everybody knows the story. And of course, now there's media about it, print media. The Washington Post article came out Thursday morning. So that gets shared around on Facebook with all my friends and family and relatives. And so now the floodgates are coming in and my phone is blowing up nonstop and I literally can't look at it because it's impossible to keep up with the level of correspondence. And I'm really glad that my wife and I use a messaging app where she's actually the only person in my life that's on that app. So I know if there's a message on that app, that's my wife, and I can open up and check that one. And I got that, and I got my group chat for the MBA program, and I'm just ignoring everything else. Those are my only two places I'm looking. And then texting with my brother to coordinate. All right, now, so the show is going to be taping sometime between like 5 and 6:30, and it's getting close to 3 o'clock, which is my call time. So I get up after having failed to try to take a nap. I shower, I get all my, clothes ready. When I first got there, I did the thing where I hang up all my stuff in the bathroom and run the water as hot as possible to steam it all out. And I walk on over around the corner to the studio. I'll walk over to guest check-in, and I stand there and wait for my brother. And, it was weird walking in there and be like, hey, I'm actually supposed to be on the show tonight. Is this where I'm supposed to check in? And they're like, yeah, they do, just give us your ID. I'm like, it feels weird to say out loud that I'm supposed to be on the show tonight. But they check me in. I wait for my brother and his wife to show up. They get there. And then someone from the Tonight Show comes down and scoops us up and brings us upstairs. We go through a whole bunch of security and, pat down and all that fun stuff. It's basically like going into the airport and getting through TSA again. And then they bring us to our green room. My brother, Chris and Jacqueline, they're going to be, in the audience, but they, came in early so they could come out to the green room and all that. And we get in there and we're sitting down and producers are looking at what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my brand new Brooks Brothers blazer and all that. And my relaxed casual outfit. I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. Yeah. We'll just keep you in that, hair and makeup's going to come back later and talk to you, wardrobe. But you should be fine. You should be fine. I'm like, oh, cool. And they leave, and my brother's, who's done some work in this industry. My brother and sister-in-law have, entertainment, show business in the New York City area. They're like, oh yeah, people show up here and they're wearing like a Hello Kitty hoodie and stuff. That just it's not quite the vibe they're going for. So no, you look great. I'm like, oh, cool. So we're hanging out back in the green room, and they've got, snacks and goodies and all this stuff. And the producers come back and they're like, all right, so we worked you into the show, and here's the script of how things are going to go. And, Jim's going to ask you this, and you're going to go through this part of the story. And Jim's going to ask you this, and you're going to go through this part of the story. And I'm looking at it, and it just doesn't seem like what I want to be talking about on national television. It's like this feel-good fluff piece. I'm like, there's this really cool angle here where two veterans reconnected on Veterans Day. We were in the same unit together. We both went on to work in special operations. We're both back in the upstate New York area, which is an area where like a lot of folks need a lot of help with a lot of things. And we're happen to be part of the veteran community. I don't think I'm going to stick to this script. Like, unless I got to sign a paper or something saying like, I will stick to the talking points. Like I'm looking at what they wrote and it's fine. It's the feel good story, but it's not what I want to go on and talk about national television if we got the opportunity. And they're also, giving me the rules of the road. Like, hey, don't try to make any jokes. Like the audience really likes Jimmy and the audience really likes, the Jonas Brothers, and they're conversational. So if you're out there, like it's just talking points to move things along. And, we only have so many minutes of airtime. So we got to keep things tight, but, be conversational and you can respond to stuff, but like, don't try to tell jokes. Like, don't do that. Everyone will turn on you. I'm like, oh, okay. So no jokes. Stick to the talking points. And this is the story we're going with. Cool. So I'm back there trying to think through, okay, so what am I actually going to talk about when I'm up there? Because there's a few things here. Like I want to talk about the veteran part of this. I think it's an under part of, like it's a really cool part of the story, but I don't think people quite get how cool it is that all this worked out the way it did. Definitely want to give a shout out to my podcast if I can. And I got this national stage. What issue I want to bring up? It's like veteran transition. Like, let's talk about this. Why did Brandon and I both end up back in upstate New York doing very different stuff in very different ways? Like, this is really cool. So I'm in the back of the green room texting Brandon. I was like, hey, dude, do you want to come on my podcast and talk about like veterans transitions and some of the stuff that your company's doing and what it's like? He's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, all right, cool. Cause I'm about to go on national television and tell people that's what we're doing. That was a way to get all this started. He's like, cool. He's like, hey, also like, did you say the name of my company on national TV, Rumir? Like, yeah, if I remember, text me the name of your company. Like I didn't apply for a job, but we never actually linked up for coffee. I mean, this is Thursday. I'm in New York City. We're supposed to meet up Friday morning. So obviously we're rescheduling all that. So like, yeah, man, what's the name of your company? He texts it over. I'm like, all right, if I give it a shout out, I will. And then, yeah, we go through hair, makeup, all that. The camera folks actually came by and looked at my outfit and they're like, no. I was like, what? They're like, no. I'm like, it looks great, but like that blazer on camera is not going to work well. It's going to like with the backdrop, like it's wrong pattern and all that. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And they just look over my outfits and they're like, actually, that great suit with the blue shirt, like that's perfect. I guess a lot of sets for television shows are actually like skewed blue as like, I don't know, for whatever reason. So like, yeah, dark grays, blues, those sorts of things, they just show up really well on camera. So they saw the gray suit and the blue shirt and they're like, put that on. I'm like, all right. Old reliable. Gray suit, blue shirt for every occasion. So yeah, I get that on and we go over to hair and makeup. And the backstage of the Jimmy Fallon show, it's pretty small. There's a studio which looks bigger on TV than it does in person. It's a pretty tiny production. It's actually kind of cool to see how they got it all set up. And then in the back they just have this like one little hallway with a bunch of little green rooms off of it because the building so old. And they're telling me, okay, so like you're going to meet the Jonas Brothers live for the first time on stage, so we got to make sure that like you don't bump into them backstage. Because at some point we're going to bring you over to do makeup. At some point, you got to get wired up for sound. We can probably do that here. At some point, we're going to bring you out on set and actually show you everything. And of course, they're describing the set to me in the green room. They're like, oh, like the curtain that Jimmy walks out of, like in the middle, like you're going to come out from the side. I'm like, I actually don't know that because I've never seen this show. I don't watch late night TV. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I've never met I've never heard of the Jonas Brothers. Don't watch Jimmy Fallon. This is all, I'm just doing this. They kind of giggled. The producers were really nice, I gotta say. Everyone at the Jimmy Fallon show was incredibly nice to me. So yeah, they're telling me if we're walking around backstage, they're like all on headsets, trying to make sure they know where the Jonas Brothers are, so we don't accidentally bump into each other. Tell me if you do bump into them, like don't say like, oh hey, I'm Scott or anything like that. I'm like that's not going to be a problem. I don't know what they look like, so probably not going to recognize them. I did actually see them at one point and only figured it out because they're actually filming a segment in the back hallway. They're all some songs playing and they're hitting each other in the walls and stuff with tubes of wrapping paper and being silly. And so they're out in the back hallway filming that segment. I look over, I'm like, oh, are those the Jonas Brothers? And like my handler person was like, yep, here, come around the corner. All right. So they brought me into hair and makeup later, did a touch up. They did a nice job. And actually walked in there like, hey, can I take a before and after, photo for my wife for hair and makeup? And they're like, oh no, we don't allow any photographs back here. Guess they have like wigs and stuff in the back of the room for future segments they don't want leaking out there. I'm like, all right, cool, makes sense. Yeah, they did hair and makeup and they moved me to a different green room. At some point they'd walk me through and show me like where you're going to sit. Like you're going to walk out here behind the curtain, you're going to sit over here. And then they were doing the episode and they got the episode playing and on TVs in the back room. So I'm in like my next green room talking to producers. There's almost always someone with you, I think, because they just want to keep you talking and like casual and relaxed. You're not in your head thinking. I'm actually the opposite though. Like I need that quiet time to get prepped for a big public speaking engagement or something like that. And I do a fair amount of public speaking. So I kind of got my own process to go through. But I finally get my quiet moment. I'm thinking through like what I'm actually going to say on national TV. And how much trouble am I going to get in for going way off script? And they're airing their segment, and I'm listening to the countdown, and I'm listening to them go through the script of the show. And eventually they came and grabbed me, brought me backstage, sat me behind the curtain. Definitely feeling the nerves and the jitters, but like I've never been on national television before, but I've done some big speaking engagements in my life. So I'm not completely unfamiliar with this. I was a theater kid growing up, lots of time on stage. I know what it's like to stand behind the curtain and all that. And if you're wondering what it feels like, walking on to the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon behind the curtain is exactly like if you're in your high school musical and you're backstage waiting for your big number and you're waiting for the cue and the music to step out and all that. It's basically the same. It's the same curtain. It's the same dark stage. It's the same like weird soundboard in the corner. It's the same like muffled sounds coming in from different angles because the way the theater's set up. Yeah, it's just like that, just like that. And what I was reminding myself backstage too was like, all right, I have my jacket buttoned. Just please remember to unbutton your jacket when you sit down. So I'm there, and my cue comes. The guy, taps me on the shoulder and pulls the curtain to the side, and I step out, and the rest you can see on camera. Yeah, but walked out, heard the audience, shook Jimmy's hand, shook the Jonas Brothers' hands, met them for the first time. It was great, and then we sat down and we shot the segment. Jimmy asked me the first question, and I, walked through the story up to that point. All that was kind of within the talking points I was given. And then he asked me the second question, and that's the point where I went off script and took the conversation in the direction that I wanted to take it, because I had an opportunity to highlight an issue that's very important to me, to support a community that literally saved my life. And you got to shoot your shot when it comes. Wasn't planning on all that until, in the green room that day backstage, thinking of what I was going to say. And then, got to share that I'd never heard the Jonas Brothers before. So I got my joke in that I was told not to do. But once we had gotten to that point, just sitting up on stage, the Jonas Brothers seemed very relaxed. Jimmy seemed very relaxed. The audience felt very engaged. It felt like a very low threat environment. And, the first two segments had gone well enough, two micro segments as part of the 5-minute bit. Had gone well enough that I thought it felt like we were in a place to sneak some levity in. So did that. It went great. And then Jimmy brings up the QR code. And that was the segment. We stood there for a minute and talked, because they were cutting to commercial. Jimmy and the Jonas Brothers were all complete gentlemen, very nice, very welcoming, very, very friendly. And the same producer who, told me to stick to the script and don't tell jokes, came in and scooped me up, brought me back. And she's like, hey, that was great. That was awesome. People backstage were talking about it. They're actually going to try to cut that entire segment and use it as the teaser for the whole episode. So the episode's going to air, I guess, around midnight, and we're going to put the teaser clip out sometime between 9 and 10 on YouTube. We'll send you a link. But that was perfect. Thank you so much. And another person back there said, yeah, normally we don't get random guests who can be relaxed on camera and, talk to the other guests and all that fun stuff. I'm like, well, that's great. God bless a theater background. Yay, theater kids everywhere. Revenge of the Band Geeks. I was primarily a band geek, but I did a lot of theater too. Same friend group, I tried to avoid singing in the musicals, though. I did not like to sing very much. Loved theater, though. Theater was fun. And, of course, I do the podcast now. So, yeah, they bring me backstage. Now we got to figure out how to get over to the other studio to do Tom Lamas. Meet up with my brother and sister-in-law downstairs at guest check-in in the building, because Tom Lamas' studio is somewhere else. And, we're backstage waiting, and one of the folks who works at the night show comes in and is like, oh, do you need anything? I'm like, oh no, we got, snacks everywhere, Red Bull. I'm trying to manage my caffeine level and my exhaustion level. So I'm not super jittery or crashing, because I can't eat a lot, but I can't have a ton of coffee either. So I'm trying to manage all that. But every 5 minutes they're asking me if I need anything. So I eventually asked for some coffee just so I can say that I asked for something, and they brought it to me. I had 2 sips of it. It was nice. And they're like, yeah, we got a whole cafeteria downstairs. So you want falafel or quesadilla, whatever type of food you want, we'll send somebody to get it for you. I'm like, what? This is amazing, white glove treatment. They're being so nice. Almost feels weird. Actually, it did feel weird. Just not use that level of hospitality in my day-to-day life. Anyway, I'm like, is this what it's like to be the pretty girl at prom? So I scooped up brother and sister-in-law. And we went over to Tom Lama's show, did that. They're not quite set up the same way to have guests and stuff. There's a green room back there, but it's a shared space, kind of basically a closet where they wire folks up. So we're just standing back there chit-chatting. I'm rolling my suitcase around with all my my costume items in it. It's all my different wardrobe options. And the girl working backstage over at Tom Lama's show, I hope I'm saying that name right. I actually don't know. She's like, "What? You just met the Jonas Brothers? Ah, that's so cool." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess it was great." And yeah, did Tom Lamas, and then I skipped the best part of the Jimmy Fallon show. So my bit wraps up, and they put me back in the green room, and I'm gonna be sitting back there until it's time for me to go do Tom Lamas. Later, and there's people walking around, they got headsets on and stuff. And all of a sudden, like I see someone touch a headset, and then someone else, sticks their head around the corner. Is like, "Hey, did you hear?" And they're of course talking to the person who works there, who's like been handling me and moving me around. She's like, "Yep, just got the message." She looks at me and goes, "Hey, the Jonas Brothers want to see you." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, of course." Can go see the Jonas Brothers? Yeah, it'd be awesome. So we bring her over to the green room where the Jonas Brothers are, and I got to meet them real quick. We said hello, quick chit chat. It was fun. And one of them goes, "Hey, let's shoot a TikTok video right now." I'm like, "Cool." It's like, "Yeah, just stand right over here outside the room, and then we're gonna get into this, and then we're just gonna motion you to come over and hop in with us." I'm like, "Sure." And so they got a member of their team like recording, and then they motion over, and I hop in the TikTok video and shoot a TikTok video with the Jonas Brothers. We talk for a little bit afterwards too. Of course, they're packing up to go to their next thing. I got to get to another show too, and the Jonas Brothers are not busy doing media in New York City, right? How silly is that? So they're packing up, and one of the brothers looks at me and says, "Hey man, so great meeting you. Your story is awesome. Hey, if you ever want tickets or anything, like please just ask." I'm like, "Oh, cool. How would I do that?" I'm like, "All right, yeah." But they brought a member of their team. They're like, "Hey, get Scott's info. Make sure y'all can talk." I texted my wife. I was like, "Hey, if you ever want to go see the Jonas Brothers, they just offered tickets. That's cool." All right, yeah. So I went off, did Tom Lama's show, and then NBC was great. They're like, "Is there anywhere in the city you want to go tonight while you're here?" I'm like, "Well, I love stand-up comedy. I'm in New York City. Is there like a comedy club nearby?" There's not a lot of that in the Syracuse area. And they're like, "Well, no, but like we'll get you a car anywhere you want to go." So my brother and sister-in-law was like, "Well, let's go to the Comedy Cellar." So we go back to my hotel, and I changed out of my suit and put on regular clothes. And they've got the limo sitting right there, waiting for us. And we hop in and we head downtown, go to the Comedy Cellar. So we're sitting there waiting for the next show to start, and we're around the corner at a bar. And then Fox and Friends reaches out. It's like, "Hey, Scott, can you come on the show? You want to do this?" I'm like, ugh. Like, I'm already in New York City. It's like, if I'm going to do it, I probably should just do it the next day. But they start filming at 6. It's like 6 to 9 is the window to come on and do it. I'm like, I'm not going to come back to the city just for this. So I was super lame and actually had to bail on hanging out with my brother and sister-in-law for the evening because it was getting close to midnight, and I could head back to my hotel room and try to get a few hours of sleep before doing Fox and Friends live the next day. And NBC was great because they actually rearranged my flight. So it was later in the day, so I could do Fox and Friends in the morning. And then, Fox agreed, like, "We'll get you to the airport. We'll have a car waiting for you." So yeah, did Fox and Friends, third national media engagement in like 18 hours or something. Yeah, Fox House just had like a communal green room in the back area, coffee, water, snacks, that sort of thing. They asked me if I needed anything. I was like, "If you have like ibuprofen or Tylenol or something, I got a headache." And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." They went and got that. And yeah, did Fox and Friends. It was cool. It was a fun experience. And I'm glad I brought multiple outfits because, apparently I needed, extra shirts, underwear, all that fun stuff. So I do my 3 media engagements. I've got like a backlog of, I don't even know how many hundreds of messages on my phone from family, strangers, well-wishers, distant relations, just everybody you can imagine. Old high school teachers, college professors, people that used to like babysit for me, like just wild stuff. I got to reach out from The guy who used to do pest control at my house in North Carolina reached out to me. It's like, hey, dude, I don't know if you remember me. I'm like, yeah, man, I remember you. Yeah, wild stuff. So get in the car. I'm heading to the airport now. I'm finally going. I'm gonna get to the airport. I'm gonna find some place. I'm gonna order a Bloody Mary and get some overpriced eggs and just chill out. I will say this: when NBC picked me up and sent me downtown the following night, it was in a Chevy Suburban, luxury model, all that stuff, very comfortable. Fox, when they had to drive me out to get to the airport, they sent a caddy. I'm just saying. Overkill in all regards. It seems kind of silly sitting in the back of one of those by yourself. Whatever. Hey, that was great. Can't complain about the accommodations or the service. People treated me wonderfully. And I'm thinking, all right, get to the airport, find a place to sit down. I'm done. I got some client calls I got to do because, I take a PTO day Thursday, but I'm still working Friday, remotely, but available during business hours and all that. So working out of the airport, and while I'm at the airport, Inside Edition Entertainment Tonight hit me up, and they're like, "Can we do an interview? We heard you're in the city." I'm like, "I'm at the airport." They're like, "Okay, well, let's do it at LaGuardia." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm trying to find the back corner of some restaurant so I could shoot interviews off my phone. I'm sitting there thinking, man, when I went and got this phone, I got the mid-tier one because I wanted the extra memory and stuff. But I didn't need the one for social media and all this stuff. I'm like, I should have gotten the social media version of this phone with all this stuff on it, so I get to shoot these interviews better. But yeah, I ended up shooting 2 interviews from the airport in between hopping on work calls. My boss is calling, clients calling, responding to emails, all the stuff you do when you're working. And finally make it all the way home, make it to Syracuse. At this point, I'm now shooting videos for TikTok and putting them out there, trying to become a social media person, because I guess that's what you do at this point. And yeah, made it home, and having done my, 5 interviews with all those national media outlets, and SiriusXM had reached out, and I'm scheduled to do a thing on SiriusXM, and Washington posted their thing, and ABC News wants to shoot a segment, that Sunday night, walk in the room and, what's it like to be famous, finally get back home. Well, my wife was getting things packed up to go to a relative's birthday party. My mother-in-law is going to go with her and the kids. I'm going to stay home, take care of the dogs. So I walk in, they're like, "Oh, hey, how's New York? That's great. Great job on Jimmy Fallon. You look wonderful. Oh, by the way, the dirty laundry is over there. Your daughter, who's 2 and potty training, had a couple accidents today, so that's going to be extra wash. That's over there. There's some leftover pizza on the counter. We didn't get the trash out this morning, so we got some stuff in there. And yeah, would you mind unloading the dishwasher?" So as much things change, they stay the same. So that's it for that chapter of the story. But, happy to share that because of the appearance on Jimmy Fallon and all this wonderful press out there, most immediate effect I've seen is that the podcast stats are through the flipping roof. So thanks for everyone who's checking it out. If you're new to the podcast and don't know where to start, episode 4 with Bob Kerr is where we discuss Army psychological operations. Still the most popular episode that we've ever done. So definitely go check that out if you're new to the podcast and want a fun place to start. There have been a ton of people reaching out, asking to come on the podcast or proposing people to come on the podcast, especially folks that work with veterans who are transitioning to civilian life, and some other national security adjacent issues out there. So the podcast lineup is looking pretty stout over the next few months, which is awesome. Looking forward to having those conversations and sharing them with y'all. And the rest of life continues. Full-time dad, full-time husband. Got to knock out the rest of this MBA program and keep grinding at the day job. Sneaking in jiu-jitsu match anytime I can. Anyway. Oh, and yes, Dozer, who got diagnosed with Lyme disease, is doing great now. You wouldn't even tell. He's well into his medication, and he's jumping around like crazy. So all's well there for those of you who are worried about the puppy, which is really the most important part of the story, is how the dog is doing. I think so. And since we all hate it when celebrities try to tell us how to live our lives and give us amazing life advice, I will refrain from doing that with my 15 minutes of internet-inspired fame. And it would be a huge help if you rated the podcast 5 stars on wherever you listen to podcasts, and if you shared it with a friend. Thank you so much.